This is WCGR News. Your campus news starts now.
Coming up on WCGR News, we'll give you an inside look at Professor Herman's latest art gallery.
65 years of tradition, who came out on top at this year's Concordia Invitational Tournament?
Graduating this spring, we'll show you our exclusive interview with a recent Concordia alum.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Nicole Garza.
And I'm Emily Longman. 2 weeks ago, our very own Concordia Chicago hosted the 65th annual CIT. WCGR's Brad Russello and Alex Patt attended the tournament and have the story.
The 2016 Concordia Invitational Tournament was played at Concordia's Geisman Gymnasium back on January 28th and 29th. And just like all the past tournaments, the atmosphere was incredible. Starting Friday, January 28th, Concordia, Nebraska, Concordia, Wisconsin, and Concordia Ann Arbor basketball teams arrived on CUC's campus, bringing flocks of student fans and families. The weekend's festivities began with an ESPN Game Day presentation in the cafeteria, a special service in the Chapel of Our Lord, and some time for fans to settle in before the games began. The tournament started off with the battle between Concordia Ann Arbor and Concordia, Nebraska. As usual, the women's game was first, followed by the men's. In the women's game, Concordia, Nebraska prevailed with a 64-52 victory in a close game. In the men's game, Nebraska took down Ann Arbor in convincing fashion by a final score of 85-65. The next bracket was CUC's turn as they would take on rival Concordia, Wisconsin. And for this round, major bragging rights were on the line. The CUC women played back and forth with CUW in a tight game. But in the end, the CUW Falcons defeated the Cougars 83-71 as the Falcons pulled away in the fourth quarter. The men's game was not as close. CUW came hot out of the gates and kept the momentum going until the final buzzer as they cruised to a 98-69 victory over the Cougars. CUW shot over 50% from the field, and their bench outscored their starters 51-47. Though CUW won the games, CUC fans were loyal until the end and kept cheering on their team even after the game was over. The second day, both men's and women's would feature the Cougars and Ann Arbor, playing for the 1-1 tournament record. The women's game was another close one. The Cougars had the lead throughout most of the game, until the fourth quarter when Ann Arbor came back and outscored the Cougars 24-9, resulting in a 75-62 Ann Arbor win. As for the men's game, the Cougars were looking to upset the Ann Arbor Cardinals. It was a 6-point game at halftime, and an upset looked possible, but Ann Arbor came out strong in the second half and won 81-66. 2,000 people packed Geisman Gymnasium for the championship to watch both matchups between CUW and Nebraska. In addition to the fan sections for both respective teams, other students from CUC and Ann Arbor came to see who would be CIT champs. The women's championship, similar to other games, was close in the first half, but a 23-10 run by Nebraska in the fourth quarter sealed a 75-53 victory and the women's CIT championship. For the men, the game came down to the wire. Both teams fought point for point with lots of physicality. The game and the championship would come down to one last play. After many fouls and free throws in the last minutes of the fourth quarter, Nebraska held on to an 86-85 lead with 8 seconds left, and CUW had the last shot. Falcons' Deshaun Robinson put up the final shot at the buzzer, which missed, sealing the victory for Nebraska. The Bulldog faithful stormed the floor to celebrate yet another Nebraska CIT championship. For WCGR News, I'm Brad Russell.
Well, it was fun seeing the tournament here. Next year's CIT will be hosted by Nebraska and won't return to CUC for another 4 years.
This event alone draws in hundreds of Concordia alumni. Congratulations to Concordia, Nebraska for bringing the crown.
Most of us may notice the art that is displayed in Krensman. If you haven't seen this recent show, you may want to drop by and take a look.
I want students to have the opportunity to see how artists work not just on one project, but how you can put yourself in a place you perhaps have never been before, and to walk the land and to walk with eyes wide open and see what is out there for inspiration and how that can serve for the basis of a lot of creative works. It is something that takes a lot of time to develop. In my case, it took 6 weeks in a place of inspiration, followed by many, many weeks, months of working. It became quite meaningful to me, especially as I was stitching on one at a time, about 1,000 beads on this piece. Again, that meditative quality is really very enjoyable for me.
The show is open until February 25th, so be sure to drop by.
We're about 6 weeks into the 2016 semester. For many, that means graduation is right around the corner. We got the chance to chat with a recent Concordia alum who's been working in the film industry.
Hi, I'm Jake Olson. I was a previous student at Concordia, and I've worked on a couple of movie projects. My first one was When the Lights Go Out. That recently just finished, and then they're working on throwing that to festivals to get it more popularity. And then I worked on another one called Winter. It was a lot about people from Syria. And then I also worked on a television pilot called Lifelines, where it was about an EMT who could time travel. Well, in the first place, I took a lot of classes with Professor McGann when he was here, Erickson, one with Narvi, and a few other teachers. And TV editing helped a lot because, then I could just film myself and then edit it myself if I wanted to practice. I didn't necessarily need anyone else for a while, so then I could make my own films and things like that. And then that way I could send out reels or short clips to people and they say, oh, this person knows how to edit, or this person knows what he's doing at least somewhat. Okay, yeah, we'll hire him for this job, or things like that. My first one was actually my last semester here, and that was called When the Lights Go Out. It just recently came out, and I graduated in 2013, and so you can imagine how long that post-production took. But it worked out, and I saw the movie. It's a horror movie. It was pretty scary. It was funny, and I think it could really hit cult festivals pretty well, because a lot of horror fans are into that thing, and they become cult classics. Like, you remember Paranormal Activity went crazy, and they're on the 5th one or something. So that was cool. And then after that one, I worked on something called, I worked on a movie in between there, and that was called, they changed the name, it's now called Winter, but that was actually all Syrian. So the actors just spoke, I think Syrian's language is Arabic, so they just spoke Arabic, and I had no idea what they were saying. Sometimes recorded the sound, things like that. It's 12-hour days for about a month. We lived in a house, and it got shot. It looked really good. We were all completely exhausted at the end, but it was one of the best learning experiences as far as movies go, and 12 hours a day is what's common. And then I worked on a television pilot called Lifelines, and that was with the same people who made When the Lights Go Out. They're really fun to work with. They're called Evil Iguana Productions, and that was my favorite one to work on. None of these things anyone was paid a lot for. It was like more resume building and hoping it gets picked up by someone, but that's not what you do it for at that point. You do it for the experience and how fun it is. I mean, you get to work on a movie and TV and things like that. I think my final semester I looked for 50 different jobs on Craigslist, and I got like two 2, but I got them. And then from then on, and one of those 2 jobs was that when the lights go out job. Actually, that wasn't Craigslist, that was Facebook. But, and then from then on, I've been able to work my way up to learn enough in order to be able to have enough practice, know enough people to shoot my own movie.
You know, it's so neat to see Concordia students getting out there and really following their dreams after they graduate.
I hope to follow in his footsteps one day. Just a reminder that if you're on Facebook, we invite you to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter for the latest campus news and updates.
Also, if there's anything you think we should be covering, message us your story ideas.
And from all of us here on WCGR News, have a great night.
We'll see you next time.